Welcome back to the channel where I provide regular cricket content on interesting topics. Today's video is the first of a two-part series where I am paying homage to the boundary clearers in Test cricket, the most prolific six hitters. Hitting sixes requires a great deal of skill, strength and confidence in Test cricket. Whereas for example in limited over games there are limitations on the field, in Test cricket as we know, captains can load the boundary with catches. So I have dug through the stats of the biggest hitters in the history of the game. I have done the basic maths to work out on average how many balls are faced per six for each player. My one rule is that they must have hit at least 50 sixes, this is to rule out those with low numbers. With that said, after scanning the list I don't think many if any would have broken into the top 10, even if I lowered that threshold. Let's get started. Number 10, Mahendra Singh Dhoni. Dhoni is one of those players who is probably best known for his performances in one-day cricket. But the cricketing world shouldn't sleep on his achievements in the Test arena also. Coming in lower down the order he was known for either shepherding the tail or going on a full-out offensive. He carried over his attacking intent from one-day and T20 cricket, and in Tests hit 78 sixes against 8,249 deliveries. This puts him at number 10 in the list with a delivery per six ratio of 105.8. Number 9, Stuart Broad. This list is going to spring up a few surprises, starting with the England bowler. Broad's batting is one of the frustrations of English cricket over the past 15 years. He seemed to be carving out his career as a legitimate all-rounder until he was struck by a nasty bouncer versus Sri Lanka. He never recovered his ability to play the short ball and as such either backs away or steps inside, in a premeditated movement. With that said he still has got a good eye for the ball and swings hard. Where he knows that most bowlers are going to target him with short stuff, he can set himself and try to clear the boundary. To date Broad has hit 54 sixes in 5,584 balls. This gives him a ball to six ratio of 103.4, and ninth place on this list. Number 8, Brendon McCullum. Many of you would have guessed that McCullum would have been part of this list. After all, the Kiwi was one of the most explosive batsmen of his generation. McCullum played a carefree form of cricket and holds the record for the fastest Test century of all time. At Christchurch he hit a century off just 54 deliveries against the Aussies, something which will take some beating. In fact by my maths the Kiwi brute has 4 Test hundreds at more than a run a ball. Put his skills and aggression together and McCullum ended up hitting 107 sixes in 9,989 balls. This gave him a ball per six ratio of 93.3, and number 8 in this list. Number 7, Rohit Sharma. Rohit was a bit of a surprise for me in this list. Not that I don't recognize his boundary hitting capabilities, but just because he seems quite a controlled batsman for me. I should have known however, as no one in the history of one-day cricket for India has hit more sixes than Rohit. Ultimately he has an excellent record in all three forms of the game, so his six hitting was going to bleed over into Test cricket. Overall he has hit 76s in 6,126 deliveries. This gives him a ball per six ratio of 87.5, and number 7 on this list. Number 6, Ben Stokes. Like McCullum, I am sure most of you thought Stokes would be on this list somewhere. I can't think of a player who can switch so quickly from defense to out and out attack like Stokes. When he gets going he seems to clear the boundary at will. He takes on the big shots no matter if the boundary is covered in fielders. Stokes has supreme strength and timing, meaning that no one in the history of cricket has hit more sixes. This is really evidenced by the amount of times he has hit 5+ sixes in an innings. In short, if he lets loose it is fireworks. In total he has hit to date 123 sixes from 10,178 deliveries. This gives him ball per six ratio of 82.7, and number 6 on this list. I think if he batted like a maniac every time, Stokes would have a better ratio, as sometimes he just decides he is going to block everything. But whatever the ratio, in full flow I don't think there has been a more frequent hitter of sixes in cricket. So that wraps up the positions from 10 through to 6, and there are some fabulous strikers of the ball to come. If Stokes has 5 ahead of him there must be some bombers left. Without looking it up, who do you think is in the top 5? I promise there are a couple of surprises, or players who I didn't automatically think of at least. I would go as far to say that no one will guess the number 1. Remember, they had to have hit at least 56s to be included, and no cheating. As ever, thank you all so much for watching and contributing.